You are now listening to the Big Data Beard. Well, everybody, this is Cory Minton from the Big Data Beard team, and I am excited because I am in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama, which is a beautiful sunny day, as you can tell. And I'm excited because I met a really interesting person and company a couple weeks ago at the Data Science Salon in Austin. And Matt from QuantHub is here to join us, as well as Nathan. Matt, why don't you do a little introduction to who you are?
Yeah, thanks, Cory. I am the interesting person that he was talking about there. My name is Matt Cowell. I'm the CEO at QuantHub, and am a chemist and chemical engineer by trade, but somehow found my way into the software engineering space in product development and also product management, and did that for a long time at different SaaS companies, and then came to QuantHub about a year ago to start running it as an offshoot of another company. And so I've been here for about a year, and I'm loving the big data science space.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, Nathan, we surprisingly, our families know each other, and we're just now getting to meet each other for the first time. But Nathan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm the Cheif Data Scientist at QuantHub. I got into the data science field through marketing, doing some predictive modeling in the academia space, and then have been doing data science consulting for the past 5 years with QuantHub's parent company, StrategyWise.
Very cool. So the job title data scientist is one of those that's used massively, understood very little, I think, and it carries a ton of misconceptions, and the number of skills or the skills that actually qualify somebody as a data science, I think, are constantly in question. But I'm curious from you guys, what's your running definition of a data scientist?
Sure. So I guess I'll take this one.
Yeah, go
ahead. You always see that Venn diagram of for the business skills or domain skills, your math skills, and IT.
The Conway model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And so I feel like a lot of the ambiguity around the definition comes from that those are not discrete, that it's a very continuous or a gradient between all three of those. And so some people tend to define it more or less towards one of those three areas, but it really just depends.
Yeah, it depends. Okay. So it feels like they're really, while it is a moving target, it feels like, or it depends on the project, it's like a gradient. But what do you think, why is it so hard for so many organizations to actually find good data scientists?
Yeah, I think the part of the problem with the definition, as Nathan was talking about, is that you don't typically find people with these skills. This is a very cross-functional Venn diagram that we're talking about here, and you don't tend to find people with those skill sets all in one person. So someone with business skills, someone that's very strong at the math and science part, and then someone that's strong in IT. I just don't run into many of those people, and so I think it's a little bit we're sort of creating our own problem. There are a lot of good posts out there and a lot of good thinking out there around segmenting these roles a little bit more effectively to where. And this actually is the case in other fields like software development, where we have product managers that are more focused on the business side, and we recognize that there's pretty significant expertise and a skill set really in understanding the business strategy and actually pursuing a business strategy. And there are skill sets in people that are very strong at programming and IT things, and there are scientific skill sets, and these are typically different types of people, whereas in this field, we're trying to actually merge that all into one, and in doing so, we're creating a pretty massive problem where we can't find these people, yet we keep trying because that's going to work.
Right. So there's people out there that say they're data scientists, and by some definitions that may not be wholly accurate, but maybe the definition is the problem more than anything else, right? But these are sought after resources. I mean, the idea that we want to sought after, meaning follow the economics. They're expensive, right? Because the supply and demand. The problem is it's a unique skill set that's very important to business. So how is QuantHub helping organizations to actually find out if they've actually got a data scientist that's appropriate for their project?
Yeah, I'll take this one too. Maybe what we found is that companies, before solutions like QuantHub were around, what companies are doing is they're all manually doing tech assessments. And so they're getting candidates come in the door, and they're getting a lot of candidates because the job is very popular. It's very high paying. So they're getting a ton of candidates, and they're manually doing tech screening and tech assessments to try to determine who's right for the job and who's not right for the job. And so a lot of those tech assessments we found are using, they're very programmatic. They're very programmer-based assessments. So they're checking to see if someone's really good in Python or they're really good in R. But in doing so, you're really determining, are they a good programmer? So you're not necessarily checking the scientific side to see if they actually know what models they should be applying and which are the appropriate models. How do you actually validate that model is appropriate under the circumstances and you're actually getting the results that you expect and need? And so for us, what we're doing is a much more comprehensive approach to that role, recognizing that it is a combination of different fields. So we're doing much more of a scientific approach on testing statistics, mathematics. We are testing programming, but we're also assessing on data wrangling, data exploration, including visualization, and then finally, of course, machine learning, deep learning, and really all the algorithms of machine learning and deep learning, and not just testing, can you actually write Python to do a machine learning model? We're actually really much more focused on, do you understand the model that you're trying to apply? And we will check to see if they can program, but much more focused on, do you understand the concepts of being, a data scientist and data engineer for that matter, on the data wrangling side, do you really understand how to bring large data sets together and how do you deal with outliers or missing data and that type of thing. So we're taking a more, I think, comprehensive approach to that role.
Okay. So help me understand how QuantHub came to recognize this problem and then how you sort of developed a solution to solve that problem of, beyond just programmatic tech vetting of here's a test, see if you can program against it, but that more holistic view. Help me understand where that came from and how you guys developed that content.
Sure. So whenever we were going through our recruiting, vetting, even the training process at StrategyWise, I was heavily involved in that and found that there was a significant amount of time spent going through all the steps necessary to thoroughly vet someone, and then because StrategyWise at the time was a startup consulting firm, there was a lot of pull to take some shortcuts and go, this person has a great resume, or they just came from a wonderful company, a name brand company, and so let's just pull them in and use them. Well, we made a number of bad hires, and so that woke us up to needing to actually create a process, but one that was also answering the question of how do we do this efficiently, because we can't take all this time to spend vetting someone, and through that. We started seeing some great results with our process, and then some of our clients started asking, "Hey, would you mind just sharing your process? And we're going to build a data science team." We thought, well, there might actually be a market for this.
Excellent, very cool. So
it turns out there is.
Excellent, that's very cool. But see, one thing you mentioned though is that I think the reason there's a market for something in general is that it solves a problem. And the problem here, like the avoidance, is hiring the wrong talent for the project. Like, and it's not that they're bad talent; it may just be that they're the wrong skills. How costly is that really for an organization? Because that feels like if it's really painful, then you got a great market. If that's not that big a deal, then it's not a good market.
Yeah, just in some, it varies pretty wildly across the country, just because the average salary varies quite a bit across the country. So in Silicon Valley, it's probably into the $200,000 range in terms of the cost of a bad hire. Nationally, the average compensation for a data scientist nationally is $140,000. And so if you do some calculations on productivity loss and your backfilling costs and all that kind of thing, it's easily into the six figures in terms of cost of making a bad hire. And so that's sort of one area where that's obviously pretty painful. And a lot of small companies, small organizations, that's catastrophic.
Yeah,
but even large organizations, large consulting organizations, they just simply cannot afford these costs. And then on the tech vetting side, what we found, in fact, actually at the conference where we met, I had someone from a company come up to me and say they spent an entire week in January. This was a data scientist, practicing data scientist, spent a week just interviewing, doing tech interviews, and they were like pleading, please help me. And so just doing some calculations of that, companies are spending about 15 grand internally on assessing candidates for every single position they're hiring. And so it just gets extremely expensive. And when this is a scarce resource and it's really a strategic priority for companies, you just can't afford to have a scarce resource internally on a strategic project pulled off to go do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I found interesting in kind of looking into the platform and what you guys are doing is that not only are you taking a holistic view of the data science process and how you're vetting those skills, but you're actually using some machine learning tools to power some of this. So help me understand just a little bit without too much of the secret sauce, but like, how are you guys applying machine learning and AI to actually making your platform better?
Sure. So at a number of different levels. One is just on that front end. Your what has become or is becoming ubiquitous of resume matching with a job description. So using some natural language processing to do that piece of it, and then moving into the actual testing platform. It takes kind of a Bayesian approach. It allows candidates to self-assess, uses those as the priors, and then updates those based on the responses it receives.
Okay.
So the idea is just in the most efficient way or the fastest route to get to a high level of confidence that they are actually at that level of skill.
Excellent. So one thing you hit on there that I want to dig in on is you said that QuantHub is more than just, hey, vet this resource for me. Mm-hmm. Help me understand, what are the other ways that people are actually using this, what you have developed, which is clearly capable of vetting people, but it sounds like there's more to it than just organizations using QuantHub to vet talent. Yeah,
and we want to be a strategic partner in sort of the data science and data engineering mission. We want to help companies build great teams. We don't want to just do a transactional component of that and help you hire an individual. We want to help companies build great teams. And so to do so, it is about filling that team with great people, but it's also about leveling up the skill set of the people that are already in the company. In many cases, companies are having to actually promote from within to fill these roles because the people just aren't coming through the door. And so there's a really a larger element here to actually building a great data science team than just hiring. So to that end, we are really an assessment platform at our core, and we're using those assessments both for hiring, which is sort of your natural use case, but we're also using those assessments to benchmark skills across the organization. And then what we found, and really in talking to a lot of people out there, there are a ton of different training companies out there, and there's really good training with those companies. But as someone is going into the field and they're saying, how do I become a data scientist? How do I become a data engineer? It's overwhelming. Yeah. They don't actually know where to go, which this is a typical evolution of when you get a lot of content, then, at the beginning it's easy to find it, but you get a lot, there's a wealth of content. Now you can't figure out where to go. And so then you have your aggregators come in. Yeah. And so we actually want to be more of an aggregator in that case and sort of a matchmaker. We want to do assessments to say, let's actually benchmark your skills. Let's say you're a data analyst, you want to be a data engineer. We need to improve your wrangling skills. You need to improve your SQL skills. And so where do you go to do that? Well, let's actually measure all the data engineers in that company. And so let's identify that gap. And so it is in fact wrangling, it is in fact SQL. And then let's actually align you with training opportunities, but let's make sure they're the right training opportunities through tagging of the skills that are actually learned in those training opportunities. And then also have people rate them. So, you're really getting to the right opportunities. And then we'll continue to do assessments along the way to measure and chart your progress.
Wow, that's really cool. Because my natural thought was, oh, great, I can use this to make sure I hire the right person. But this is much more than that, and that you can, as somebody who wants to improve their skills, you might lobby to your organization that, hey, I want QuantHub to come in and help me.
Right.
Because as you said, the number of classes that are available today
unbelievable, yeah.
is stunning.
It really is.
I half the time I don't know where to tell people to start because it, like you said, it just depends. Like, what is it that you're trying to do?
Yeah.
And data science clearly is not it doesn't seem like data science really is a one person thing. It seems like,
Right.
Would you say it's a team sport? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
So what is the future of QuantHub look like if you guys are really successful and you continue to grow? What does the future look like in terms of being that platform partner to an organization? Like, help me understand what that means, both from your side, but also from their experience perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take this one. I think for us, we want to, when, 5 years down the road for an organization that's really gone through that evolution and adoption of data science, data engineering, and has really built that advanced analytics team and has been successful in doing so, we really want them to look back on that journey and say that we were one of the most instrumental partners in them making that happen. And that's kind of where I talk about, we don't want to be a transactional partner. We actually want to be embedded in there and help them deliver on their most strategic priorities, which in many of these organizations are around data science, data engineering, AI. And so that's one thing. And what I think will happen over time as we do that, there's this term called the quant crunch, which is just really a reference to the great shortage of people that are in this field. And so what I really think we will be able to do is we will be able to help the entire industry start alleviating that quant crunch by starting to really help people get into this field through what we just talked about, through aligning people with the right training, through going to universities and actually aligning those people with the right companies that are looking for someone with their skill set by doing assessments. So if we're actually helping the company assess talent and we're going to the universities and we're assessing their talent, there's just a natural match between the two, and then we're sort of matchmaker there as well. And so I think if we execute on what I believe is great potential here, I think we can play a big role in that over time.
It's funny. I just had this thought. We had a conversation last year with some really talented data science folks that talked about using data to find love in online dating. And it actually made me think of an analogy for you guys. Like,
where's this going here?
A traditional job board, and I'm just trying to think about how I would classify you guys. Like, if a traditional job board, like people like a data scientist going and applying for a job, is like Tinder, like swiping, like you guys feel like the eHarmony of like job finding. Like there's some science behind it. Like you're actually matching people based on real experience. Okay, so you're like the eHarmony of data science job sites.
So that's now our unique value price. Right?
That's right.
One liner. Our website's going to change right after this.
No royalties needed.
Yeah, we're going to go eHarmony though. Tinder might leave people with a bad taste. So we'll go with eHarmony.
Well, he was like Bumble. It's lady left. So sorry for that little tangent, but I think it is a unique thing because one of the things I'm curious about is today, I'm guessing the way that companies engage you is through some sort of a contractual or a licensing arrangement. Right. But what does it look like for somebody who's not an organization, who's maybe just a data scientist seeking to find employment? Are they able to use QuantHub today, or is that sort of a future capability?
Yeah, that actually is a future capability. We have the assessments done, but what we're building out for those individuals to just come in on their own is we're actually not going to charge for that because we think there's a lot of value in the overall marketplace by helping talent engage and get into this field. And so what we're building out is really that training side for individuals to come in. So that'll be coming probably in the next quarter, and is something that actually on our website you can go in there and say notify me when ready. So that is on the website, and that's definitely something that we think will play well, and a lot of individuals are interested in. What we're doing in the meantime is we are running monthly skill competitions with a lot of our different assessments and giving away fun prizes. So people can follow us on Twitter and participate in our monthly challenges, which are just take a 25-minute test and see how you do.
Nice. So if an organization wants to engage with you, what does that look like for you? Is it like, help me understand how, some pick a big bank in town or a hospital system, whatever in Birmingham. If they want to use QuantHub, what is it like? How do they engage with you, and how do they begin working with you?
Yeah, the benefit of QuantHub is that the complexity is all behind the scenes, coming out of Nathan and others' brains of how you actually assess a data scientist, which is a little bit behind the scenes. So the interface is actually super straightforward. It takes 5 minutes to get up and running. So it's really just about a quick conversation so that we make sure we're aligning with where the company wants to go. back to being, we want to be in this for the long haul and actually help them succeed. So it's just a quick engagement. Let's talk about the challenges you have today. Let's actually talk about the roles you're trying to fill and specifically the skill sets, because the name data scientist, as we talked about, means something different everywhere.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the skill sets. If it's a data engineer, let's talk about the skill sets, and then we'll basically help you get set up, and then you're just off and running. Within 5 minutes, you're sending out assessments to people. It's just super straightforward.
Yeah. So Nathan, so clearly you guys are building a platform that's great today, but the role of the data scientist is constantly changing.
Sure.
So I'm curious what, to start, like, what do you think are some of the nearest term evolutions happening in the role of the data scientist, and then how is QuantHub keeping up with it?
Sure. That's a great question. When you mentioned the matchmaker piece of it, that's one thing that I had in my mind is, someone's profile consistently changing to, okay, well, must like long walks on the beach until you say, yes, I want to do that. And then it may have changed.
Right. Exactly. They were in a hurricane, so they no longer like beaches.
So the requirements are changing constantly. We see with the evolution of statistical methodologies that requirements change, because you go, okay, people are not using the same statistical methods now that they were even 5 years ago.
Right.
And then the same kind of thing and highly related is the compute power changing the landscape in terms of, how much do you actually need to design your algorithms versus how much do you just need to take latest cutting edge research and apply them, or be more of an engineer. So those for us, it does involve a lot of staying up to speed, staying on cutting edge, but also practical in terms of what's driving real value for different companies. And then we believe that the only way that you can actually vet or know if a data scientist can do the job is for them to actually do the job, which would be ideal, right? If you could try before you buy.
Exactly.
But so the next step back for us, the next level, is to create something that directly mirrors those job requirements. And so for us, it's taking that focus and then keeping up with the trends and shifts as they're practical.
Yeah, because there's not only changes happening in the math and in the model development, but there's changes happening, as you said, in the execution engines, right? In the clouds, in the cloud orchestrated environments. Hardware innovations are actually becoming cool again, weirdly enough.
Exactly.
Like, that would be such a weird
Right.
thing in the land of software world. So how important is like this evolution of cloud computing, or even some of the technologies that came from cloud and now people are adopting kind of en masse, think like Kubernetes, that kind of stuff. How important is that for a data scientist to really understand as they bridge the gap between theoretical and business application to actual implementation?
Right. So I think they're highly critical to some organizations.
Right. Okay.
And so from the feedback that we've gotten on the platform, it really shows that people's it's not only their definition of a data scientist, but it's what they actually need, where their organization is on their data maturity or data science advanced analytics maturity. And so if someone has the ability to use all these tools, Kubernetes and Docker, and spin up some kind of Spark cluster, that may not solve the need of someone who just really needs a Power Excel user.
Yeah. And that can be data science, surprisingly enough, right?
Exactly.
So one of the things I always want to encourage is, I think all of us is this idea that data science, while it is a super cool, like, sounding title, it's one that's totally reasonable for people to do. I think that if you pursue the right skills. So if you were given advice to either think, young people out of college, or even folks that are doing some analytical kind of roles, what advice would you give them in terms of where to go start thinking about building those skills that are most critical to becoming a data scientist?
Sure. So, if you do a Google search, a lot of the top responses to that question would be, go learn math, go learn computer science, and then go apply that to some domain. What I've seen in developing our team and then working with the content at QuantHub is that the shortest route seems to be a top-down approach where you start with the problem and realize that at the end of the day, a data scientist is just a problem solver. They're just using data to solve those problems. Starting with the problem, starting with something, if they have the luxury of finding a problem that they just enjoy, finding something and then just going out and learning the components that it takes to solve those as they go.
I think for me, I have near college age kids, so I think about this a lot. And my kids both love math, but have no interest in programming. What's interesting about this field, actually, back to what we were talking about when we defined it, is it's a lot different than software engineering field, where you have to love programming to be in the software engineering field for the most part. And I don't necessarily think that has to be the case in this field. I think you can love data, you can love math, statistics, and you could really excel in this field. You may not be a machine learning engineer, but that doesn't mean you can't be a pretty good data scientist. So you might not get into the Kubernetes and the that side of the world and actually getting models to production. You're more a little bit on the theoretical side of analyzing data sets, analyzing business problems, and what models you should apply. And that's hugely valuable and for sure needed. Actually, it could be the skill set that lives on the most out of this. We talk about automating ourselves out of jobs. That's going to be a skill set that's hard to automate. And so I think that's a really good opportunity if you find yourself in that kind of bucket of people that love math, love statistics, linear algebra, these types of things, but don't necessarily think you're going to love hardcore programming. You don't want to go into computer science. That's fine. Go into statistics, go into those types of fields, and you can still make your way, absolutely make your way into data science and engineering type roles. Nice.
So if somebody wanted to learn more about QuantHub or wanted to get started with you guys, what's the best place to go get more information?
Yeah, I think certainly quanthub.com gives a lot of information. We have a pretty active blog there. We're relatively active on LinkedIn as well, content-wise, and Twitter. So any of those places, or we're trying to make it to a lot of conferences around the country, which is how we met. So come up and talk to us. We love, even if you don't necessarily have this problem, we love talking about this field and the progression of this field and how people are building great teams, because we love to learn. And so, even if we're not working together, we love to be in conversations around this.
Very cool. Well, selfishly, I want to talk a little bit about what it's like to have a startup company in Birmingham, Alabama, because I constantly, I travel a lot and I meet a lot of folks, and they don't immediately, when you say I'm from Birmingham, they go,
yeah,
you're from where? But it really is an interesting town. So I'm curious what your perspective, and I'll start with you, Nathan. What's it like for you as a data scientist and as a member of a startup organization? What's it like being in Birmingham, and what do you think the best things about Birmingham are for exactly the kind of role you're in right now?
Yeah, so I think kind of it's the best and worst. You're kind of shielded from a lot of direct competitors in the geographic space. And so you're not seeing things and going, oh, sorry, they already did it, so we can't pursue that path. On the other hand, we're all always assuming, okay, we're way behind Silicon Valley, and then we'll go to these conferences and realize that we're actually we're actually ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so it kind of shields you, and then creates kind of an urgency for making sure you're keeping up with the rest of the nation.
Very cool. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, one of the things I've been in Birmingham for 13 years now, and I've worked in software the entire time. And in a previous company, we grew it really quickly. It was a SaaS company. We grew 10x, our revenue 10x over 10 years there that I was there. And so I've seen that in Birmingham, and I think Birmingham is an awesome place to grow a company. One of the things that I think is our best asset personally is the customer service centric kind of culture we have in the Southeast. And I really think that's an advantage if you choose to take advantage of it. I think there are plenty of companies. I love reading from Jeff Bezos and people like that talk about a very customer centric philosophy, culture, organization. Southwest, Chick-fil-A. I mean, there are a lot of organizations that talk about that. And I really do think that makes a difference. And I think that's a little bit in our DNA here. And so I fundamentally believe that that makes a difference. That will make a difference for us. I think we are trying to be very hands-on with organizations that we're working with, and that's why we want to try to be a part of their long-term solution, not just transactional, because I think that's just a little bit in our DNA. And I also think Birmingham has a great startup ecosystem. So since it's a little smaller, you can actually more easily connect with people and have real personal relationships with people that are creating successful businesses and that are really struggling through the same things that you are, which I find that to be extremely valuable in a town this size. And then also access to capital. And believe it or not, there's actually capital in Birmingham, Alabama. We raised money in less than 30 days. We raised $1.25 million last July, and we did that in less than 30 days. And so, I think that's not the norm. There are companies out there going on 9, 12 months still looking for capital in places that are more crowded. Well, there's a lot of capital that's ready to be put to work here in Birmingham, and specifically for local startups. And so I think this is a fantastic place. The cost of living's less here, so our labor costs are lower. So I just think this is a fantastic place with a highly virtual workforce, and a lot of people able to work remotely very effectively. I actually think this is a great place to be headquartered. So it's ideal for us.
Excellent. Well, Matt and Nathan, it's been really fun to chat with you. And
yeah, absolutely.
I am happy to have a company like QuantHub starting up in Birmingham, Alabama. And I think it is really interesting how you guys have recognized that artificial intelligence, which is powered by our data scientists, requires human intelligence first, right? And getting those intelligent humans in the right roles at the right time with the most efficiency feels like what QuantHub's real value is to organizations. So I encourage our listeners to check out quanthub.com. And if you're somebody who's seeking to hire great talent, use QuantHub as a great tool in your tool chest for making that happen more rapidly.
We've learned a lot from our guests about big data, but now it's time to get a bit personal in a segment we like to call Rapid Fire. Pew, pew.
So, Matt, I'm going to start with you. What is the last great book that you read that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, a book I read. It's actually been about a year, but it was so awesome. I'll use this one. It's a book called Monetizing Innovation. So I love the product side of things, and it's one of my favorite product kind of business strategy books that I've ever read. That the name makes it sound like it's all about making money, which at the end of the day, that's part of it. But what it's much more about is actually how do you determine truly what the customer and the market wants and what they're willing to pay for, which is that sounds easy, but that's not easy. Most of you know. And so that's a fantastic book on that topic. I loved it.
Excellent. Nathan, what about you?
It's a book called Make It Stick by Peter C. Brown. Okay. And it goes through kind of how learning approaches and different methodologies for the most efficient way to learn. It was highly impactful, and it threads through what we do at QuantHub as well.
Nice. So Make It Stick. That's not Made to Stick.
It's not Made to Stick.
Okay, that's
And actually, funny story about that one.
Okay.
Is the reason why I ever did got Make It Stick. Is because I was looking for the audio version of Made to Stick.
Okay.
And downloaded it by accident, started listening to it, and went, this is not the book that I was.
So found by accident. Yeah. All right. Did I catch you're an Audible guy?
That's right.
Oh, yes. I'm an Audible maniac. I love that. Okay. I respect that. Okay. Nathan, if you were going to be walking on stage at a conference, what would your, or to, I don't know, play for the Birmingham Barons, what would your walk-on song be?
Oh man. It would probably be a Queen song.
Yes.
Maybe Don't Stop Me Now.
Oh, that's solid.
Wow.
Mercury lover. I like
Yeah,
that.
like B-sides. That's that away.
All right, man, what about you? What's your walk-on song?
For me, I'm a child of the 80s. I love 80s long hair,
Fair band.
cheesy band. But I'd say Welcome to the Jungle is one of my favorites.
Good choice. All right, Matt, what piece of technology is currently making your life worse?
Well, I would say my phone's alarm clock. I don't like waking up in the mornings.
Yeah. It's really any alarm clock in general, I think. I don't think
Yeah.
it's
No, I think honestly, it's funny. Slack and messaging type platforms are great, but if you're not careful, you can just be overwhelmed with a sea of notifications. So notification as a sort of broad pattern in products is. It's a benefit, but it's also a huge distraction.
I totally agree. What about you?
That's a good question. Maybe I was thinking PowerPoint at first, but I'm thinking maybe internet marketing. Just because, especially at QuantHub, we're always trying to address what the actual practical problems are, but then you're faced with the hype.
Oh, yeah. Hype. The most dangerous people in business,
Goodness,
marketers.
yeah.
Get it. All right. So, Nathan, what's your biggest personal money pit right now?
My biggest personal money pit?
Mm-hmm. Like, do you have like an expensive hobby or
Oh, my
something that
goodness.
you're investing in right now?
Yeah, great question. So I actually for Christmas just set up a karaoke room inside of our house, and so we're putting more money into that than anything
awesome.
right now.
I hope as a parent you soundproof that room.
I know you can tell from my honey and sand voice that karaoke is some solid stuff.
So I love karaoke. I don't have one in my house, but I had the chance to go to Japan last year and actually go to a proper karaoke bar in Japan. And man, I didn't realize how much fun that is. Like, it's a great fun if you got a good group of people that you get along with. Karaoke's a blast. What about you, Matt? What's your money pit?
I would say probably music instruments is a bit of a money pit for me. I keep telling myself when I swap out a guitar for another guitar, I don't even play anymore, but I just like end up buying more guitars for some reason that I feel like it's going to make me play more. But and then I tell myself that I'll sell this other one so that I could buy this one, and then I never get around to selling the other one. So then I just end up with some crazy amount of guitars for no apparent reason.
They're an investment.
Yeah, actually they are. It depends on what it is, which is part of my crazy logic is that a Gibson Les Paul is actually an investment. So I've kept it.
Indeed. Good for you. All right. So, Matt, what TV show or Netflix series are you binging on these days?
This is a little embarrassing, maybe, but I love the 80s, as I mentioned, and so there's a series. It's awful. I'm not going to lie. It's called Cobra Kai. It actually is on YouTube, YouTube TV.
Yeah,
and it's a YouTube original, and the acting on it is straight up atrocious. But I can't help it. I love it. So, it's actually Johnny and Daniel LaRusso from the Karate Kid, and I love it.
I love that. I will tell you, spoiler, you're not the first person to tell me this, and so I haven't had a chance to watch it now. But my buddy Ty is going to be so glad.
I literally started yesterday because my cousin this weekend told me about it. So now I'm on day 3 or day 2 or whatever.
Nathan, what about you? What shows are you watching?
Oh man, so I usually spend most of if I'm choosing, it's watching tutorials. But if when my wife pulls me away from that, it's she has me watch Outlander with her.
Okay. Very cool. I've heard that too. I heard that's good. All right, Nathan, are you going? What's the next interesting trip or place you're going here soon?
It sounds like I may be going to Austin. Matt just told me right before this, but
nice. Austin's a good town.
Yeah.
Great barbecue. Even from Birmingham, it's a beef town.
That's right.
More so pork and chicken. Yeah,
that's good to hear. No, we're my wife and I are planning on going visiting back to Japan. We lived there for about 7 years.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Very cool. Love Japan. Now, in Tokyo or outside of Tokyo?
Yeah, we actually lived in 7 different places while we were in
Wow.
Japan.
You have ADD with places.
We do. But the longest was in Tokyo.
Very cool. What about you, Matt? Any cool trips?
It's with college age kids. We're actually going to do, for spring break, we're going to do a college tour. So we're going up to Michigan. I think we're going to go to Virginia and maybe Penn State.
Very cool.
So we're going to spend the entire time driving, which is fantastic.
The story of a dad. I totally respect that. Well, guys, it has been awesome to hear how QuantHub is solving some really unique challenges, connecting data science talent with the right jobs and those folks getting the right talent at the right time. And thank you for being here in Birmingham and joining us on the Big Data Beard podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Cory. We appreciate it.
Join the Big Data Beard team at DataWorks Summit in Washington, D.C., May 20th through 23rd. And if you want 20% off your pass, use promo code BDBeard19. Enter for your chance to win a free pass by mentioning the Big Data Beard on Twitter or LinkedIn and sharing a link to one of our shows. Full details on how to win the free pass are available in our show notes.
Thanks for listening to the Big Data Beard podcast.
The music from this episode is by Andrew Bell. Check him out on iTunes or Spotify.